Okay, I am here with the proprietor of Hogewash, William Hoge. Well, CPAC. I understand you have a little thing that's coming up here on the last day of CPAC.
Absolutely, 7 o'clock this evening, and we're on Saturday evening as we speak now. Stacy McCain and I are hitting the, I guess I can't say airwaves, the internet waves. Stacy and I have been kicking around the idea of having some sort of talk show, and so we are going on Blog Talk Radio 7 o'clock this evening for an hour, and we'll see how it works. But our intention is to have a podcast on a weekly basis on Saturday evenings, and it's called The Other Podcast. That's Stacy laughing in the background.
Yeah, and which is amazing because normally when he's typing, he's so in the zone that he won't even consider noticing other things like that.
I can multitask.
Yeah.
I try to keep that a secret. I try to keep my multitasking secret so that I don't get distracted.
Well, let's get back to the interview. And speaking of getting distracted, now you haven't had a lot of time to come to CPAC this year, from what I understand.
Well, I have to work for a living, you know. I'm just a blogger. I'm not one of these wonderful journalists, and not only that, I'm a part-time blogger. I work as an engineering contractor at Goddard Space Flight Center, and we have a piece of equipment that is going through testing right now. So I've been busy in the laboratory and other support functions.
In fact, you mentioned your blog. You often have some awesome photos of celestial material. Yeah, on your site.
One of the things I do every morning at approximately 6 a.m. is either a photograph or a short video dealing with astronomy. My career in technology actually started out because I wanted to be an astronomer when I was 6 years old.
And do you regret not actually ending up there, although with the Goddard Space Lab you have a connection to it?
Well, actually, most of the missions I've done at Goddard have been astronomy missions. The one I'm working on now, the telescope actually is going to point down at the Earth and is going to look at infrared light coming off the surface, which will then be used to figure out soil moisture content. But the last missions I've done before that were all X-ray astronomy.
So your 6-year-old self would be proud of you.
I hope so.
Now, obviously, we've had you have also written an awful lot about the Kimberlin file, so to speak, as Stacy would put it. There's still litigation going on. It's been years now, and the litigation is still going on to some degree. And I know for myself, I find it depressing that the litigation is still going on because there's, I mean, it's interesting when you write about it, but there's so many other things you could be spending your time on rather than this nonsense.
Well, on the other hand, I got into that because I started blogging back in 2011, and then in 2012, the Kimberlin thing with Aaron Walker and getting that restraining order against a blogger that wouldn't allow him to speak or write about Kimberlin for 6 months. When that happened, the internet kind of exploded, and I was one of the people who was involved in writing about it. And being from Maryland, I was the guy who can actually go to the courts and do the hearings. So that's how I got stirred up in it. Eventually, I got stirred up in it enough that Brad Kimberlin has sued me 4 times, filed 2 sets of criminal charges against me, and tried to get a restraining order. It's been a lot of fun. I don't recommend it.
Hey, now, and what's the state of the current cases right now? He's gone after you 4 times.
Okay. What he or Bill and Bill Smallfeld have been.
Who you refer to as the cabin boy?
Yeah, the cabin boy. Bill Smallfeld, who basically is one of Kimberlin's PR flags. Stacy's just enjoying this too much. Have sued me and other people. I've had a total over all the cases of almost 50 co-defendants, including Stacy in 2 of the cases, and Aaron Walker in 4 or 5 of them. The United States Chamber of Commerce in one of them. Lee Stranahan,
who I interviewed in that very chair earlier today.
Yeah. Glenn Beck, Michelle Malkin, the Breitbart organization. It's been amazing. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, though, and Pacific Northwest National Labs were the real surprising ones. But Kimberlin has lost all the lawsuits he's filed since all this started. And he's now starting to give up on some of the appeals rather than following everything all the way through on that. There's still one lawsuit pending between him and Aaron Walker that's in the appeals court systems here in Maryland. And then the Kimberlin's appeal against Paterico, which is a bogus civil rights claim, is in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. Patrick Fry won the suit, but Kimberlin's appealing it.
So, how much longer do you think this is going to keep going on?
Well, I don't think that it's going to go much longer. I doubt that Kimberlin's going to file any more cases. I could be wrong, but I doubt that he is. We're in the appeals court systems now. Those judges take the length of time that they take, but I would be shocked if the cases haven't been resolved, at least at this current stage of appeal, by the middle of this year. After that, we'll see whether people are going to appeal things further.
But what I don't understand is this: you're supposed to have done some sort of what's the harm that you're supposed to have done other than to report things that are already in the public record?
Well, that Kimberlin considered that harassment, which of course it isn't. Writing a truthful news story about someone isn't harassment. They may not like it. I mean, there are things that I just as soon not be spread around that I did. Everybody has something to be embarrassed about. But the First Amendment secures the freedom of the press. And without the press doing the reporting, and quite often that reporting is now done by bloggers, stuff does not get out there. Things are not as transparent as they need to be. And the community as a whole suffers. In the case of Kimberlin, his wife, who was estranged at the time, had filed a statutory rape charge against him, and he didn't like the idea that got reported, and he claimed in one instance that it was harassment to his daughters to report truthfully about that charge for him. So, people sue each other. Sometimes that's done justifiably, and sometimes it's done where people are just trying to cover up.
Now, none of these have been considered at the. I don't know what the SLAPP laws are in Maryland.
Okay. The SLAPP laws have been raised in Maryland, but Kimberlin's cases never were successful enough for that really to get to be an issue. He did try to use the SLAPP law when people have countersued and was unsuccessful in trying to use the SLAPP law to defend
See, I
himself.
would think that
Maryland has a very weak SLAPP law anyway.
For those who don't know, that'd be for penalties for filing frivolous suits to just try and cause people problems.
Strategic lawsuit against public participation is what SLAPP stands for.
All right, now I'm going to ask you the questions I've asked most people here at CPAC.
The answers are yes, no, and maybe. Now you have to get them in the right order.
Well, the first question, the problem with that is that question number one is Donald Trump, year one, thumbs up or thumbs down. What have you liked the most? What have you liked the least?
We were talking before we started the camera rolling about the interview you'd had about the individual who surprised you by saying that even though she wasn't a supporter,
He was like,
but she had some respect for him keeping promises. And there's something to be said for that kind of honesty in a politician. And so I like the fact that to a great extent he's been as advertised. I was not a supporter of either of the two major party candidates in 2016, but Trump would have been my preference of the two. So, on the whole, I think that it's both good and bad for the lack of experience we have in the White House. The lack of experience shows up when things drop in the crack or maybe aren't handled smoothly. But the lack of experience also brings a fresh approach, and that's good.
So it's a Mets for you, in terms of Trump. All right.
It's waiting to see whether he's going to be a good or fine or what kind of president, but he's at least starting out as advertised.
All right, that's a fair enough answer. Republicans in 2018, 1-seat margin in the Senate, very favorable map. 24 seats they have to hold in the House. Do they hold the House and Senate, and what, if anything, can Trump do to help them keep them?
I think they pick up seats. I think the House fluctuates a little bit one way or the other, and the answer is lost in the noise. I think they pick up seats in the Senate.
Okay,
I think the Democrats are defending too many seats in states that Trump carried decisively.
Will they take the House, the Democrats, do you think? Or is it
No,
just not?
they may pick up seats, but it won't be enough to make any, 2 or 3 seats either way are going to break anything.
All right, we've talked a lot about a possible DACA deal for the wall. Now, in the speech, I don't know if you saw the president's speech here at CPAC.
I was at work, so yeah.
Well, one of the things he mentioned in CPAC is that the Democrats don't seem to want to make a deal with DACA, and so DACA is probably going to die. But he's insisting that the wall is going to be up. So, does the president need to make a DACA for the wall deal? And if he was to make one, would you say that's all right?
First of all, should something be done to secure the border, whether it's a mechanical wall or some other means of securing it? I agree that, like every other country in the world, we should have a secure border. The only question would be, what's the best way to do it? And right now, for a large stretch of the border, that's probably a physical barrier. So let's build a wall. So that's something that needs to be done. Do we need to do something to regularize our immigration problem? Yes. How do we humanely treat people who are here through no fault of their own? We probably need to do something to regularize their means of staying and perhaps giving them a path to become citizens. The problem is not the 1 or 2 million kids. The problem is the other 10 or 12 million people. What do we do about them?
All right, and where can people find you online if they did not know already?
www.hogewash.com, Hogewash.
Thank you very much for your time, and good luck on the first podcast. The other podcast, may it be very successful.
Thanks, Pete. It's good to see you again.
Good to be seen.